In Chapter 6, we're going to take a look at how we can maintain our workbooks while we're in Excel. Obviously, maintaining workbooks can also be done in the My Documents or the Windows Explorer area as well. On page 197, we're going to look at the objectives that we'll be covering in Chapter 6. You'll notice that we'll learn to create and rename a folder. We'll learn to delete workbooks and folders. We'll also learn to copy and move workbooks within and between folders. We'll copy, move, and rename sheets within a workbook. We'll maintain consistent formatting using styles. We'll insert, modify, and remove hyperlinks. And finally, we'll create financial forms using some templates that Excel has to offer. The model answers for Chapter 6 are on pages 198, 199. So if you need to refer back to those to kind of see what it is that we're doing, feel free to do so. Notice Project 1 doesn't have any model answers. It just starts in with Project 2. In Project 1, we are going to take a look at, as mentioned for the most part, from the objectives, we'll learn to create and rename a folder, select and delete, copy, cut, paste, and rename workbooks. We'll learn to delete a folder and open, print, and close a workbook. Okay. When you rename or do any of these management tasks, you can do most of those while you're in Excel in the Open and Save As dialog boxes. If you look at the bottom of page 200, you can see in Figure 6 the open dialog box and the various parts to it, and I highly recommend that you review that page, just kind of familiarize yourself with the areas of the open dialog box. With managing workbooks in Excel, try to keep in mind, you've probably learned this in other classes, maybe computer classes that you've taken, but it's really important to be able to manage the files that you create on your flash drive or on your hard drive, just like you have a filing cabinet. Maybe some of you have filing cabinets that hold folders that contain documents, hard copies of items that you want to keep. It's the same concept. You want to be able to quickly locate and retrieve workbooks that you've created, and folders is a great way to organize that by putting those workbooks into folders. In Project 1A, we're going to learn to create a folder, and we're going to do that again through the open dialog box. They're going to have us create a folder named Payroll. I'm going to go to the open dialog box, and within that I want to mention something. I am in the Student Data Files Level 1. The original folder, I've made a copy of that so that I can work from this and still have Chapter 6 folder as a backup. So, and the way I created a backup is I just right-clicked on the folder, chose copy, and then in the white area I right-clicked and pasted, and it automatically gave it a name of copy of, and then the name of the folder. So I will be utilizing the copy of my backup for these exercises. So to create a folder, I am going to go ahead inside the folder, and inside the folder, which would really be a subfolder, and I've got many subfolders on my flash drive, and you may too, but when we create Payroll, that will become a subfolder of my Excel 2010 Level 1 Chapter 6 folder. Okay, so you can have folders within folders. So one way to create a folder is to go to the Create New Folder button, and in that you'll see a name text box, and I'm going to put the name in they've requested as Payroll. When I press enter to create the Payroll folder, it'll automatically then put me into that folder, and if I'm wanting to find files in the folder, I can certainly get to that. But I want to mention something too. The figures that you see at the bottom of page 201, that figure represents the open dialog box if you're using Windows 7. And on my computer at home and actually at work, we are not using Windows 7 yet. I have Windows XP on my desktop, so we're not getting the same dialog box as what you see in the book. When you're testing, even at the Workforce Certification Center, if you're in Evansville, they will have Windows XP as of now. They may have computers with Windows 7. I'm not sure of that. Other proctoring sites may have Windows 7 as well, but you're going to see just a little bit of difference there on this dialog box. Now, once you've created your folder, as I've mentioned before, this will take you right into payroll. Now, if I want to go back to my Chapter 6 folder, there's a couple of ways to do that. If you look at the top on your menu bar, there should be a button that says up one level. So if I click on that, that takes me back a level. Let me go back in there a minute. The other thing you can do, there's also a back button. If I click on that, that'll take me to the previous level, which is very similar to what it has in Windows 7 as well. Once you've named a folder, created a folder, you might find it beneficial to rename the folder. Maybe it wasn't as specific or as descriptive as you would like, or maybe it doesn't describe the contents anymore. So to rename a folder, you can do that by right-clicking on the folder, and you can do this with even workbook names too. To rename, you just right-click. And that will be the same no matter what. If you can remember just right-clicking instead of remembering these particular buttons at the top, that'll work for you as well. So to rename payroll, I'm going to right click, choose rename, and I'm left clicking on this. That will allow me to be inside the text box here, and I'm just going to type in finances, and I'm going to press enter, and that renames that particular folder. The next section of Project 1 talks about deleting workbooks and folders. And again, there may be time when you need to go through and throw out or put in the trash or delete folders or workbooks that you're no longer using. And you find yourself doing that again with a physical filing cabinet. There are times when you need to go through that and kind of purge files that you don't need anymore. Same concept is true with our electronic files. Workbooks are folders that are deleted on your C drive, okay, on the hard drive. When you delete those, they are automatically put into the recycle bin. All computers have a recycle bin. If you accidentally delete a workbook or any file, you can go to that recycle bin and restore it. However, if you are, which I'm doing right here, if you're deleting something from your flash drive or any other storage medium that you take with you, if you delete something from that, it's not going into the recycle bin and it's lost forever as far as if you need to restore it back. So you want to be very careful as to what you're deleting. Make backup copies if you need to, but just know there's a slight difference there, that if it's on the C drive, if your files and folders are on the C drive and you delete them, you can go to the recycle bin and restore them if you accidentally delete them. However, with a flash drive or any other storage medium that you take with you, deleting those workbooks and files or whatever are permanently removed. Okay, in Project 1C, we're going to take a look at selecting some workbooks and deleting those workbooks. So again, I'm going to cancel out this for just a minute. If we wanted to select or delete a workbook, we would go back into the open dialog box and go to the folder, whatever, in this case it's Chapter 6 folder, and we're going to open the RP F accounts, and we're going to name it just like we've done in all of our previous projects. We're going to name it, and then they'll have us delete it. So I've got it saved. If you'll notice, I still have the original one intact, but I've also named it again. So both of these are the same workbooks, but they're just saved under different names. Now when you open this and make changes to it, just like I've done in all the projects, as I make changes to that, I still have the original one intact and nothing's been changed to it. To delete a workbook, it does have to be closed, and in Project 1C they're asking that we delete this file. So it does have to be closed or you won't be able to delete it. And I'll show you this actually, just so that you know what's going on. If I want to delete this file, you can just right click on it, the bottom of your drop down menu. I'm not sure if you can see this, but at the very bottom, about the third from the bottom of the list, there's a delete option. It says, are you sure you want to delete this file? And I'll say yes. It's not going to let us because it's in use. I already have it open. So it's not going to let you delete out files that you have open. Okay? So I'm going to cancel out of this dialog box. I need to close out of this file. We'll go back to the open dialog box, and again, to delete it, I'm going to right click on the file that we want to delete, or left click delete. It says, are you sure you want to? Yes. Now we can delete that file. As long as it's closed, you should be able to delete the file. You can also delete files, more than one file at the same time. And in our list here, they want us to delete 3 workbooks, and we're going to start out with DI customer sales, and they want us to go down through DI jobs. So just like I've shown you to select items before, you can click on the first one, hold down the shift key and click on the last one. That highlights everything in between. Or if you had workbooks that weren't necessarily together, you hold down the control key, and that allows you to highlight non-adjacent workbooks. If you were to delete these non-adjacent, you would need to right click on one of the selected items. Okay, you don't want to just start right clicking because you lose that, and you're right clicking on just actually a file that you don't want to delete. So when you're selecting more than one, you want to make sure that you actually right click on one of the selected items, and then when you delete, it will delete all 3 that are selected. Now they want us, I want to go back, they want us to delete the DI customer sales and down through DI jobs. And again, if I right click on FIN con here, notice how that removes the selection, and I'll actually delete the FIN con, which is not what I want to do. So you want to select these 3, right click on any of the selected parts, delete it, yes, we want to delete, and that removes those 3 workbooks. As I've done in previous projects, when you open up a file, save it under a new name, obviously the original is intact. In Project 1D, they want to show you how you can copy workbooks from one area to another, which this is, again, I've shown you earlier how I copied Chapter 6, made a backup of it, and this is the same concept, making a backup of files so that you can keep your original one intact and use the one that you've copied and manipulate it. So they're going to have us open up EP Sales. They want us to save it as Total Sales. And I'm keeping it in the same folder. Alright, then they want us to take Total Sales and copy it to our Finances folder. So again, under the Open Dialog box, Total Sales, we're going to copy that into the Finances folder, and then that'll give us 2 copies of it. One can be used as backup, the other one we can use and actually make changes to. Okay, so a couple of ways you can do that. They have you opening Total Sales backup and then saving it into the Finances folder, which is fine. Or if you don't have it open, we do have it open, so let's just cancel out of that. If you have this open, you can save it into the Finances folder, keep it Total Sales, and save. Now let's look to see where these are located. One's in Finance. Okay, if I double click on Finances, there's Total Sales there. It's also in the Chapter 6 folder. So we've got 2 copies of it, both in different spots, but we can use them as backup. One is a backup, and the other one we can use to actually make changes to. The other way you can do it is what I showed you before. If you take, let's choose a different one. Let's take the RPF Accounts workbook right above it. I'm going to right click and copy. I'm going to go into the Finances folder, and to get into that folder I'm just going to double click. That opens it up. Now I'm in the Finances folder. In this white area I'm going to right click and choose Paste, and there's the RPF Accounts. It's in the Finances folder. It's also back in the Chapter 6 folder. So now I have 2 copies, one's a backup. The other thing you can do too is move a workbook, and that we'll get to that in just a minute, but we could have moved Total Sales or any of these workbooks out of the Chapter 6 folder, moved them into Finance, just because it makes more sense, because there might be times even in real life when you've got something organized, misfiled, so you take it out of one folder, put it into another folder. Alright, I'm going to go back to finances here. I'm going to delete this workbook. We've learned how to do that. I'm going to right click, choose delete, and yes. I'm going to go back up a level so that we're looking at the Chapter 6 folder. I've been using the back button and up one level, but I want to show you another thing. If I'm in the finances folder, I can also use the drop down arrow and I can move to different folders pretty quickly. Like if I want to go back up 5 levels, I can click on OFAD 218. That immediately takes me back to that folder. Okay. Okay, now we're back to where we were. We've already done the concept shown in Project 1E because I copied the RPF accounts into finances. They've chosen CM Jan income accounts and chosen to copy that in there. I want to show you another way to copy into another folder. If you click on the workbook that you want to copy, hold down the Control key, click and drag into the folder. I'm still holding down the Control key. Release the mouse first and then the Control key. That will also copy. You know, we right clicked and copied. I've shown you that way, but you can also, like I said, hold down, select your workbook, hold down the Control key, click and drag, and that will work also. So now I've copied it into finances, and you should see it both here, I'll go back up a level, and also in the Chapter 6 folder. So that's a new way to copy, just by clicking and dragging. The book doesn't necessarily talk about that, but that's another method that you can use. You can also move workbooks from one folder to another, just like I mentioned before. They talk about that using the cut and paste option rather than copy and paste. You could cut and paste and that moves it from one area to another. At the bottom of page 205, they look at sending workbooks to a different driver folder. That's an option that if you right click, you can actually send. Does the same thing that a cut and copy would do. So lots of methods for doing the same thing. We're going to do the cut and paste method for Project 1F. And they want us to move the FinCon workbook into the finances folder. So to do that, you just select the workbook that you want to move. I'm going to right click, choose cut. Let me back up a minute here too. The send to, you are kind of limited as to where you can send it. So even though that's an option at sometimes it's not applicable to what you're doing. So do be aware of the cut option as well. So I'm going to right click and cut. Notice that kind of dims that out. Then I go to the folder that I want to move it to. I'm going to double click on finances. Again, in the right white area, I'm going to right click and choose paste. And that takes the FinCon workbook out of the Chapter 6 folder. Notice it's not here anymore. It's been moved to the finances folder. Okay. Now, once you've moved or named or saved a workbook to folders or on your flash drive, you can rename them. And so what they're going to have us do is in the finances folder, the FinCon workbook that we just moved in there, they want us to rename that. So I'm going to right click on FinCon, choose rename, and we're going to rename it to analysis. Same steps that we used when we renamed the oh boy, I can't even remember the first name that we used for the finances folder. But anyway, okay, I'm going to go back. The payroll. It was the payroll folder, but we renamed it to finance. So it's the same methods for renaming workbooks that you did for folders. And then finally, they're going to have us delete a folder, just like you would delete a workbook. You can right click on them. They actually want us to delete finances. So I'm going to right click on finances, choose delete, and I want to back up just for a minute. You could move or copy an entire folder as well. Okay, just by the same methods that we've used previously. You can right click on it, copy or paste, and then go to the area of your flash drive or on your C drive or wherever you want to copy it to or move it to, and then right click and paste. Okay, but they want us to delete finances. You can either right click and click delete, You can also click on the folder, press your delete key on your keyboard, and it'll say, are you sure you want to remove the folder finance and all of its contents? And it does. It removes everything that's inside that folder. We're going to say yes to that, and now that folder's gone. I'll go ahead and cancel out of this, and that'll take us back as we finish up project 1.